Hey everybody, it's Missy again. Thanks for joining me today. I have another layout for the Hip Kit Club, and this is my first layout using the beautiful 2016 September Hip Kits. They are so pretty. So after rummaging through everything and trying to decide what in the world to start with, I decided to start with some of the chipboard. My assignment for today is clever with stickers. So I decided to use a lot of the chipboard stickers for this. Now I had to use this paper right away. This is from the Maggie Holmes Gather collection, and these florals are stunning. I love the teal, the pink, and that golden yellow mixed together. So I'm going to take two of the big floral clusters and fussy cut them out, and I'm going to use those as layers. And the rest of this layout is going to be stickers. Now, this pink background sheet, the cardstock, that comes in this month's cardstock kit, and that's going to be my background, and I just love how this turns out. I'm going to use those 3 black and white pictures, and they're just everyday moment pictures. It's not a big occasion, just my daughter looking cute one day. Those are my favorite kinds of pictures to create with. So I'm going to start with messing my background up a little bit. Well, not messing it up, but getting messy with it. You know what I mean. So I'm going to come in with some white gesso and just smudge some down, pretty much down the middle, because this is going to be more of a vertical design. Now, if you got the color kit this month, this comes in it. This is one of the creamies from Shimmers, and it's called Grapefruit. And so when you open it, it's going to be hard. And so to activate it, just spritz some water in there and let it sit for a few minutes. Give it a little stir. And it's going to start to activate the paint. And it does take a few minutes sometimes. It depends on if you want it thin and light or if you want the paint thicker and a little darker. The longer you let the water sit in there, the thicker the paint is going to get. And remember, the creamies have a shimmery finish, but it's almost like a satin finish. It's very pretty. These are from last month's color kit. So I'm going to combine these Prima pastels with the shimmers here. So I want some pink and some of that coral pink color, because the pink in those flowers, it's not super bright pink. It's almost like a soft pink with a little bit of a coral tone mixed in with it. At least that's how I see it. But I did want to add in a little bit of a bright pink here. It's still subtle, but it's a different shade, and it winds up looking really pretty. I love how it turns out. But I'm trying to match up the pink in that leaf with a couple other pink tones, and I'm just using the pastel, smudging it down, using my finger, the little bit of water, and then just smudging it. I do a lot of finger smudging here, and I saw Irit do that, and the effect of it is so cool, and it's just fun to use your fingers. It's a totally different look than if you use a brush. Now, instead of using water, I decided to use the creamies as a smudging element, I guess you could say. So when I use the pastel, scribble it, and it's a little bit wet from the creamies, and then I'm just using that to smudge it. And so it's not only going to smudge the pastel, but it's going to give it a different little tone because of the color in the creamies. And so that's really fun to do, because you can create your own colors, and it's just going to give a different look rather than using just clear water. And I love how this is looking already. I do take some time. This is the longest part of this layout, was adding this color to my background here. And I'm using, goodness, what are the colors of those pastels? I will pull them out right now and let you know the names of them in case you got them from last month's. The pink is called Magenta, and then of course the white one. I'm using Salmon Pink, which is that, not the one I'm using right now, the other one. It's like a light peachy flesh color almost. And then the orangey one is called Orange. And it looks a lot lighter until you start to draw with it, and then it gets very bright. And so I'm just using the pink, those 3 colors with a little bit of the white, and then that grapefruit color. And that's how it's going to look for now. I love how that looks. I love the different shades of pink mixed in with that salmon, I guess you could say. That's a good word to describe it, that salmon pink color. And now I'm going to come in with the stickers. And these are technically chipboard, but they're still stickers, so I'm going to consider them stickers. Now, I love that Crate Paper is very good about putting frames on their chipboard sheet. So that's what I'm going to start with. And I'm going to come in with this other chipboard sheet. These are the thickers that also come with the Gather collection. And I believe the frames are on the Cute Girl collection. And I'm just going to start picking little pieces off. I'm going to use a lot of glittery gold elements here and some black and white elements, since my pictures are so dramatic with the darks and the lights. At this point, I decided that those flowers are so pretty with the teal that I wanted to add a little bit of that teal mint color to my background. So I decided to come back in with the pastels, and I'm mixing the cobalt green, which is actually that really pretty teal color, scribbled with the cadmium green pastel. And when you add the white pastel on top of it and spread it around a little bit, you're going to get that really pretty mint color. And I didn't want to add the shimmers to that because the shimmers obviously is that salmon coral pink color, and you don't want to add that to teal because you're going to get a muddy color. So, and make sure you check your fingers, because if you're smudging pink and orange with one finger, you don't want to use that finger to smudge the teal. So make sure you're using different fingers to smudge, or you're wiping them off in between, because you don't want to muddy up your colors. So I decided to add a little bit of splattering, and these are some shimmers from my stash. That is a colorings called Well Blue Me Down. It's a really pretty teal color. And I didn't want to go too overboard with the splatters, but I did want to add a little bit of interest there. And then I'm going to come in with the grapefruit and just add a little bit of splatters in that color. So I got that all dry, and I'm going to come back in with all of those frames and reset my design. And I'm going to have the flowers sort of layered behind the picture, and then I'm going to have the pictures kind of not sideways, halfway layered on top of the frame. So half of it's on, half of it's off. I want this to be kind of like 3 separate little clusters, I guess you could say, staggered clusters. And you know, when you start to use a lot of chipboard, your page gets heavy and it starts to get bulky because of the dimension, because chipboard is very dimensional. So you have to be careful with, you know, how tall your page gets if your end game is to put it in an album. So be careful with that. Now, I did run this through my sewing machine with gold thread, so those frames are officially attached. They're not going anywhere. And I didn't have any problem with my sewing machine. You just have to be careful. I have had my needle just break, but it's because I used it for a long time, and then finally it just broke. But I didn't have any problem stitching through. I didn't stitch through all of the glitter part, but for the most part, they're stitched down. So I'm going to use those X's and O's at the top and the bottom. And I love the contrast of this. I love the light, soft colors mixed with the dramatic photos, because there's so much black in the photos. It makes the photos pop, it makes the background pop. There's just such a contrast. I love that. I love doing that in any page that I make. I love making sure that the photos pop while at the same time making sure the background pops, because, you know, the main focus is always for me the photos, but you want all the embellishments and the paper to also stand out as well. So now I'm just coming in with my thread. I'm adding in some detail here, and I've got some teal, some pink, and some gold. I added some gold there in the middle, and my metallic thread does not want to tangle up as easily as the other thread. I think it's something in the metallic nature of it. It's just, I have to really work harder to get it to loop around and make a nice pretty tangle. Now that's one of the Project Life cards from the Project Life kit, and I'm just going to cut very light layer behind the pictures. Just want a little bit of that yellow color, since the background doesn't have any yellow, and there's only a little bit of yellow in the leaves. Then for the middle, I'm going to do something different and use this polka dot card, and it's very subtle. And as always, the Project Life cards are custom designed by Kim Watson, so you're not going to find those anywhere else. And I don't do Project Life, but I love to use them on my pages in different ways. They make great layering pieces. You can fussy cut some of the designs out and use them as embellishments. You could create a nice grid with those. Lots of different ideas. Now, these thickers, I love them, but they have so many little pieces because it's like a stencil design, or a stencil font, I guess you could say, and those little pieces are a pain to line up. So I got my ruler out and thought, okay, if I don't get my ruler out, these are never going to be straight. So got that done as straight as I could do it. I love that there's gold glitter on these frames, and the chipboard is just so pretty. Oh, I love the gold. So I'm going to add a little bit of foam underneath my pictures because, again, I've got the dimension going on with the frame, and I wanted the photo to be at an even level. So I don't want to glue the edges down and then have the middle part poking up. So I want to make sure it's got a flat surface there. And I love that there's space in the top photo for that leaf to overlap, you know, and it's not covering up her hair or her face. It's like the perfect little spot there. And then I thought I want to add a little bit more of that bright pink color. And so there was one more frame on that chipboard sheet that I had not used, and it had some gold in it, and it's got that really bright pink color. So I thought, well, I'll just layer it in the middle here. And the only problem I had with this is the height. And like I said a minute ago, you know, when you put two pieces of chipboard on top of each other, it's definitely going to start to get higher. And it works out, but at the same time, it's definitely a lot chunkier of a layout than I normally do. But it's not so high that I can't put it in a page protector. So now I'm going to come back with the cute girl sheet and just add in a couple of hearts. So cute. And I'm going to use that piece as the rest of my title. I really didn't have a title in mind here. I knew that there's so many words, if you can see there on that thicker sheet, tons and tons of big words. But I didn't want to use a giant one. I already had that love glued down, so I wanted to come in with something smaller. And that Silly Smiles piece is a perfect color, a little bit different shade of pink, but I like how it looks. And so that's going to be my title. And I added a couple of little plus signs. Those are also chipboard pieces. And then this is another shimmers from my stash. It's more of that bright pink color, and I just wanted more hints of it, so I did a couple splatters. And this is another chipboard sheet. Whoops, well, I just had it. I put it down. That's from Pink Fresh Studio. These are Simple Stories brads, and I'm just going to use that one there, mainly for the pop of color because it's that perfect teal mint color. And these are Simple Stories enamel dots. And I'm going to use these as a subtle embellishment. These are that blush pink color. So they're just going to create little areas of interest. They're not huge embellishments that will take away from anything. Now I'm going to use the Pink Fresh hearts. I'm going to use a couple of the ones that are white with little black splatters on them. Because you can see there's some with royal blue, some with pink, some with green. Very versatile. But a lot of those colors are not on this layout, so I didn't want to use the green or the royal blue. These are from the Gather collection, Maggie Holmes, and they are shiny gold, gorgeous, gorgeous. Look how many phrases are on this sticker sheet. I mean, my goodness. Could use this forever and probably never run out, but I'm going to use a couple here and there just to add a little bit more of a gold element to the page. And I like the fact that they're shiny gold, because I've got shiny gold and I've got glittery gold, and my sewing is shiny gold, so those kind of echo that. Yes, that is Heidi Swapp Gold Color Shine. It just, you know, if you got gold elements on your page, it's almost a crime if you don't use Heidi Swapp Gold Color Shine. And we got that in a color kit several months ago. But I did add a little bit of journaling in my date, but that's the final layout. I love how this turned out. I was so excited. I didn't really know where I was going to start when I began this, but this is probably one of my favorite hip kit layouts that I've made. I'm just very, very pleased with how it turned out. Very, very different. So this is just a fun idea of how you can start using all that chipboard that you're going to get this month. So let me know if you have any questions. I hope you enjoyed this. Stick around for lots more September hip kits to come, layouts. So I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.